In this movie, we'll take a look at ways you can lock, isolate, and preview independent layers. And by preview, I mean that you can see some layers in the outline mode and others in the preview mode. And here's how it works. We'll start with lock because it's the simplest to understand. Let's say I want to lock this back layer so that I can marquee with a little more flexibility in a document window. Then I would just go ahead and click in the second column next to the eye, and I'll get a little lock, as you can see. And now, if I marquee this area, I end up selecting the text without moving the purple background. You can also lock all other layers, by the way, and that works by first unlocking this guy by clicking on the lock, and then I would Alt-click or Option-click on the Mac inside of this second column, and that locks everybody but the back layer. As you can see, if I just go ahead and drag around to move the big purple rectangle, I'll go ahead and undo that move, of course, because that's not what I want. And then if you Alt or Option click again in that second column, you'll unlock all the other layers. And then presumably, I would just go ahead and lock this guy in order to keep him safe and sound. I'll also sometimes use locking in order to clear a selection. So for example, let's say I marquee this area right here, and I end up selecting way too many things. All I want to select is the stuff on the Aura layer, so I'll just go ahead and drag up the lock column for all the other layers in order to deselect everything that's on those layers, and then I'll go ahead and unlock them once again by dragging down the column of locks, and now I have just the Aura selected and nothing more. All right, another way to temporarily lock down layers is to isolate one layer so that you can work on it independently of the others. And you do that by first selecting the layer you want to isolate, in my case, the head layer right here. And then you click on the flyout menu icon and choose Enter Isolation Mode. And that will isolate the contents of that layer so that you can't select anything on any other layer. And of course, everything that's not selectable is going to appear dimmed. To get out of the isolation mode, all you have to do is click on this little arrow icon if you want to, up in the upper left corner of the screen, or you can just press the Escape key. Another way to isolate a layer is to double-click on an object on that layer. And so I'm going to double-click on this guy's helmet right here in order to isolate that object. And then notice that in addition to this being a clipping group, about which we'll learn more in a future chapter, you can see that it's on this layer called head, and you know it's the layer because, first of all, if you hover over its name, it tells you it's a containing layer, but we also have this little stack icon that indicates it's a layer as well. And then what you can do is just click on the word head right there in order to now isolate the entire layer. And then once you get done making modifications to that layer, then just go ahead and press the Escape key in order to escape out of the isolation mode. All right, now let's talk about previewing layers. First of all, by now you know that you can see your path outlines without any strokes, fills, or effects by going up to the View menu and choosing Outline, or you have that ancient keyboard shortcut of Control-Y here on the PC or Command-Y on the Mac. But that can be a little bit confusing at times because now we're seeing this network of path outlines all over each other. Well, notice over here in the Layers panel, this column of eyes right now, they're all hollow to indicate that we're seeing the layers in the outline mode. You can still click on an eye to turn a layer off or back on if you like, but you also have the option of pressing the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and clicking on one of these eyes to make it a real eye once again, at which point you'll preview the appearance of that one layer while the other layers remain in the outline mode. And then you can Control-click or Command-click on other eyes as well. But I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the preview mode by going up to the View menu and choosing GPU Preview, or again, you can use that same keyboard shortcut of Control-Y here on a PC or Command-Y on a Mac. And that's because you also have the option of Control-clicking on any eye, that's a Command-click on a Mac, in order to send just that one layer to the outline mode, like so. Or another way to work, I'll go ahead and Control-click or Command-click on that eye again to bring it back to the preview mode. You can send all the other layers to the outline mode by pressing the Control and Alt keys, that's Command and Option on the Mac, and clicking on an eye. And that will leave that layer in the preview mode while sending all the other layers to the outline mode. I can also Control-click or Command-click on that eye to send it to the outline mode, and then Control-Alt or Command-Option click on that eye to send everybody back into the preview mode. And so I know that's a lot of clicking and double clicking and escaping and modifier keys, but that is, in a nutshell, how you go about locking, isolating, and previewing independent layers here inside Illustrator.